माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जननंदन यशोदानंदन व्रज जननंदन जमुना तीर वनचारी जमुना तीर वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जमुना तीर वनचारी जमुना तीर वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय सदस्यमान भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद से अद्वैत गदाधर शिवास आदि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गो गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरिवर्धन की जय वृंदावन धाम की जय नवद्वीप धाम की जय स्वामी तो भक्तवृंद की जय गंगा माई की जय जमुना माई की जय तुलसी देवी की जय भक्ति देवी की जय स्वामी तो भक्तवृंद की जय। All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the Ultimate. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to you. Thank you so much for being here. As usual, we don't have many devotees at the moment, but we can put the verse on the screen and then they'll come later, I believe.
Okay.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Very well. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So we can start.
Yes, Prabhuji, please.
We'd like to welcome Prema Samputa Prabhu. This is the first time I'm meeting him online here.
He comes from time to time.
I see. This is the first time I'm seeing him.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Narayana namaskritya narachayam narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam diraya nashta prayesha badresu nityam bhagavatam sevaya bhagavati uttamasloke bhakti bhavati naistiki. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. So we are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 11, verse 32. Chapter 11 is entitled Lord Krishna's Entrance into Dwaraka. Tam admajai drishtibir antaratmana durata bhava parirebhire patim nirudam api ashravat ambu nitreyor vilajatinam brigo varya vaiklava tam admajai drishtibir antaratmana duranta bhavai parirebhire patim nirudam api ashravat ambu netrayor vilajatinam brigo varya vaiklavat tam admajai drishtibirantaratmanaha duranta bhavai parirebhire patim nirudam api ashravat ambu netrayor vilajatinam brigo varya vaiklavat. Word for word translation. Tam, him, the Lord, admajai, by the sons, distribute, by the sight, antara atmana, by the innermost part of the heart, duranta bhava, insuperable ecstasy, pari rembire, embraced, patim, husband, nirudam, choked up, api, inspire of, inspire of, asravat, tears, ambu, like drops of water, netrayor, from the eyes, vilajatinam, of those situated in shyness, brigovaria, of the chief, chief of the brigos, vaiklavat, inadvertently. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Laisi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. The insuperable ecstasy was so strong that the queens who were shy, first embrace the Lord in the innermost recesses of their hearts. Then they embrace him visually. And then they send their sons to embrace him, which is equal to personal embracing. But, O chief amongst the brigands, though they try to restrain their feelings, they inadvertently shed tears. So Prabhupada's purport. Although due to feminine shyness, there were many hindrances to embracing the dear husband, Lord Sri Krishna. The queens performed that act by seeing him, by putting him in the cause of their hearts, and by sending their sons to embrace him. Still, the act remained unfinished, and tears rolled down their cheeks, despite all endeavors to check them. One indirectly embraces the husband by sending the son to embrace him, because the son is developed as part of the mother's body. The embrace of the son is not exactly the embrace of the husband and wife from the sexual point of view, but the embrace is satisfaction from the affectionate point of view. The embrace of the eyes is more effective in the conjugal relation. And thus, according to Srila Jiva Goswami, there is nothing wrong in such an exchange of feeling between husband and wife. Om Jnana Timridasya Jnanan Jana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Katamahyam Dodoti Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yukta Padakamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Ragunastam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitamscha Nama Om Padaya Krishna Prishnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tirtha Swaminiti Namine Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Asri Tatmane Sri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Namine Nama Om Padaya Krishna Prishnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvese Sasunyavadi Pasachade Satarini Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhya Ivacha Patitanam Pavinibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namini Gaura Tvize Namaha Nityanando Vatutendor Vasud Pranavalabha Janavir Jivita Patir Krishna Prema Prada Prabhu Padmavati Sutta Srimam Sachirananda Purvajaha Babum Mata Jagat Rakta Rakta Gaura Kilevaraha Advaitam Harinadvaita Acharyam Bhakti Shamshanat Bhaktavataram Itam Sham Advaita Acharya Ashraye Panchatattvamakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Sarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakti Shaktikam Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Nama Pankajanabaya Nama Pankajamaline Nama Pankajanitraya Namaste Pankajagraye Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha Jagadhitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopita Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Surato Pango Mama Mandir Gatimat Sarvasva Padam Bhujo Radha Mandana Mohano Divya Vrindaranya Kalpadrumanda Srimaranardara Simhastanastau Sri Sri Radha Srila Govinda Devo Prishyalivi Sivyamanos Marami Shrimam Rasa Rasaram Vivam Sivata Tatastita Karsan Venu Swanai Gopi Gopinata Snestunaha Taptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vrisha Banu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priyai Devi Krishna Mai Prokta Radhika Paradevata Sarva Lakshmi Mai Sarvam Kanti Samohini Paraha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Translation again. The insuperable ecstasy was so strong that the queens who were shy first embraced the Lord in the innermost recesses of their hearts. Then they embraced him visually. And then they sent their sons to embrace him, which is equal to personal embracing. But, O chief amongst the brigands, though they tried to restrain their feelings, they inadvertently shed tears. Mukam karoti vachalam pangam lagayete gri yat kre patamahan vande Shri Guru Dina Taranam Paramanam Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram Akanda Mandala Karam Vyarta Yina Chara Charam Tatfadam De Dashitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. So first of all, we'd like to welcome all the wonderful Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis on this platform who are in attendance to the class, and we would seek their blessings so that we can say something which may be beneficial for our own spiritual advancement and probably for the benefit of the audience, especially if there are some senior devotees here, like our gurus and maharajas. We would need their blessings to be able to say something of relevance. Ganga Prasad Prabhu, you are welcome. And we need your blessing to say something. Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, I need your blessing to hear something.
Sampuja Prabhu, you are welcome. Bring us a blessing from the far east.
Hare Krishna, Papa. Obeisance.
Hare Krishna. So, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to discuss this verse. It's a very deep verse, talking about the expression of the conjugal feelings of the queens of Dwaraka. Every living entity has a relationship with Krishna. every living entity has an eternal relationship with Krishna. But it is often said that the chief of all relationships is the Madhurya Ras. Actually, there was a discussion between Raghupati Upadhyaya, a very learned scholar of Prayag, Allahabad, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was traveling from Puri to Vrindavan, he stopped over in Allahabad at the Triveni, where the three rivers, holy rivers meet, Saraswati, Ganga, and Yamuna. And there, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met very, very scholarly devotees. And one of them was this Raghupati Upadhyaya. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked him that of all the forms of the Supreme Lord, which is the best form? And of all the rasas that the living entity has with Krishna, which is the topmost rasa? And of all the holy places in this world, which is the best place, which is the topmost place? And immediately, Raghupati Upadhyaya, he quoted a verse. Said, Shamam Iva Paro Rupam Puri Madhu Puri Varaha Vaya Kaishorikam Dhyayam Adya Iva Paro Rasaha. In this verse, he answers the questions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Shamam Ivam Paro Rupam. He says, Shama Sundara. The Shama Sundara form is the most beautiful form of the Lord. That is the original form. That is Swayam Bhagavan, the original form of Krishna. And that is the most beautiful form. It is called the Somya Vapu, most relishable, most attractive for the eyes. Then he said, Puri Madhu Puri Varaha. He says, of all the holy places, Mathura Puri is the best because the Lord appeared there, because Krishna appeared there. That is his Janmastan. So it is the best place on the planet where Krishna appeared, where Krishna took his birth. We have to understand how wonderful that place is, how spiritual that place is. And that is why Krishna preferred to take his birth there. Then he said, Vaya Kaishorikam Dhyayam. He said the youthful Kaishori, the youthful form of Krishna is the most adorable, is the most attractive. And therefore one should meditate on that form. Then he said, Adya Iva Parora Saha. The Adiras. Adiras means the original relationship between the Lord and the living entity. And that Adiras is described as the epitome of this Adiras is the Madhurya Ras. So therefore, Raghupati Upadhyaya says that the Madhurya Ras is the best of the rasas. And so the queens of Dwaraka, they belong to this rasa. Of course, the Acharyas explain that even the Madhurya ras, it has different shades. It has the Parakya ras and the Swakya ras. The Parakya ras is the relationship between Krishna and the unwedded gopis. And then the Swakya ras is the relationship between Krishna and the queens of Dwaraka and the queens of Vaikuntha. In Vaikuntha, in Dwaraka, Krishna relates to the Lakshmis, millions and trillions and zillions of Lakshmis in the Vaikuntha planets. He relates to them in Swakya conjugal ras. That is marriage relationship. Lakshmi is married to Narayan. The queens of Dwaraka are married to Krishna. But in the Parakya ras, there is no marriage. And that was the relationship between Krishna and the gopis in Vrindavan. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Maharaj explains that in the spiritual world in Goloka Vrindavan, the gopis are not married and Krishna is not married. But in order to nourish the conjugal Parakya ras, the gopis, they have the feeling that they're married. They have the feeling. It's only a feeling that they're married. Because with the feeling that they're married, then it enhances their Parakya ras with Krishna more and more and more. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta says it enhances the Parakya ras more and more and more. And that is why even when the gopis appeared in Vrindavan, there were mock marriages. Some of the gopis were married, some weren't married. But even those who were married, they were considered mock marriages. Some other acharyas say that actually all the husbands of the gopis in Vrindavan were simply expansions of Krishna, because nobody is qualified to marry a gopi except Krishna. So the queens of Dwaraka, they are in that relationship, conjugal relationship with Krishna and Swakya. And Krishna has been away to Hastinapur for a very long time. Krishna was with the Pandavas before the war, after the war. When he wanted to leave, the Pandavas appealed to Krishna to stay longer. Yudhishthira Maharaj did not want Krishna to leave. And so Krishna obliged. He stayed for another additional 1 month. And finally, the devotees in Hastinapur, they allowed Krishna to return to Dwaraka. So after such a long period of absence from Dwaraka, all the devotees in Dwaraka, they were very eager to meet Krishna. They were very eager to drink the beauty of Krishna. They were very eager to experience their relationship with Krishna. So you can imagine the height of their desire to embrace Krishna. You can imagine the intensity of their desire to embrace Krishna, to embrace their transcendental husband. But they could not do that in the public. So when Krishna arrived in Dwaraka, there was a big fanfare There was a big arrangement to receive Krishna. Everywhere was nicely decorated. And everybody was out there to receive the Dwarkanath, the king of Dwaraka. And so these queens, they could not bear. They could not bear. They were feeling intense love for Krishna. They were drawn. They felt like just running and meeting Krishna on the street and embracing him and drinking the nectar of his body, of his face, of his form. But they could not do it. They were checked. So Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport, the very beginning of the purport, although due to feminine shyness, there were many hindrances to embracing their dear husband, Lord Sri Krishna. The queens performed that act by seeing him. So there were hindrances. First of all, it is said that the supreme quality of a woman is shyness. Shyness is described as the control valve in the chastity of a woman. By Krishna's creation, by Brahma's creation, women are very shy. And that shyness is their strength. It protects them from frivolous activities. And so, Prabhupada is mentioning here, although due to feminine shyness, so that was one of the hindrances. They were shy, and so they could not embrace their husbands in public. It's not allowed. They could not do it. But even besides that, there were other hindrances. So they have no option. Since they could not embrace their husbands in public, since the shyness would not allow them, and also social etiquette would not allow them to embrace their husbands in public. The only way out is to embrace them within the core of their hearts, to embrace them with their eyes, to send their children forward, to embrace their father. And that embracement was satisfactory to the queens of Dwaraka. So Prabhupada writes that when one indirectly embraces it says, one indirectly embraces the husband by sending the son to embrace him because the son is developed as part of the mother's body. The embrace of the son is not exactly the embrace of a husband and wife from a sexual point of view, but the embrace is satisfaction from the affection point of view. So the queens could not have a physical contact with their dear husband. So they have to embrace him from within the core of their hearts. Due to the affection they have for Krishna, they have to embrace him within the cores of their heart. They have to embrace him by seeing him. They have to drink the beauty of his lotus face. And on top of that, they send their children to go and embrace Krishna. And when the children come back, the mothers will embrace them because the mother can embrace a child, her own child in public. There's nothing wrong with that. Social etiquette allows that. So when the children, they go to embrace their father and they come back, then the mothers will also embrace them. And by embracing them, they were in ecstasy. They could feel the presence of Krishna in the embrace of their children, with their sons. There is a similar incident. There was a similar incident in the pastime of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned from his South Indian tour and came back to Puri, Prataparudra, the king of Jagannath Puri, wanted to have darshan of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He had, before Lord Chaitanya left for the South Indian tour, Prataparudra had submitted an application through Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya that he wanted to have darshan of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu refused. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, no matter how qualified he is as the king of Jagannath Puri, he said he is contaminated by answering the title king, Raja. And therefore, as a very strict sannyasi, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was not ready to meet with Prataparudra. So every effort to get Prataparudra to meet Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not succeed before he left Puri for his South Indian tour. But when he came back, Prataparudra had not given up his desire. He increased his desire to meet the Lord, to get the mercy of the Lord. And this time, he had an advantage because Ramananda Raya, who was a governor of South India representing Prataparudra, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had met him on his South Indian tour, and they had very intimate discussion. And Sri Chaitanya had requested Ramananda Raya to resign from his political career and come and join him in Puri so that they can have much more of those transcendental talks. So, when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned to Puri, at that time, Ramananda Raya had also come to Puri. And he had approached Prataparudra to be relieved of his duties as a governor of South India. And King Prataparudra was in ecstasy to hear that Ramananda Raya is giving up his political career in order to serve Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was in ecstasy. And so what did he do? He said, no problem. You can go on retirement with full salary. And Ramananda Raya went to inform Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that King Prataparudra has granted me full salary and retirement. And that is the beginning of the softening of the heart of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard that King Prataparudra had allowed Ramananda Raya to resign from his job as a governor, and not only that, he could go with a full monthly salary, he felt obliged. He said, anybody who serves the devotee of the Lord becomes dear to the Lord. So because King Prataparudra had served Ramananda Raya, immediately Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to consider giving his mercy. So from that time onwards, Ramananda Raya would speak very eloquently about the king. He would describe his devotional service. He would describe his activity. And this enticed Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu more and more and more. And then at one point, when Ramananda Raya felt he had cultivated Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu more towards accepting the king, he approached Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, well, no matter what qualities he has, he may have the best qualities as a devotee of the Lord. And he must be rendering such wonderful service as the king of Puri. He's taking care of Lord Jagannath. But if you have a pot of alcohol, if you have a pot of milk, and there's a drop of alcohol, the whole milk is polluted. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, he may have all the wonderful qualities as a devotee of Lord Jagannath, but just by answering the title Maharaj, he's polluted, and therefore he will not see him. So Ramananda Raya said, all right, I will not push this case further, but let us agree on something. It is said that the son represents the father. Just as here, the son comes from the womb of the mother, so the body of the son actually comes from the body of the mother. So when the sons, they go to embrace Krishna and they come back and the mothers embrace them, they felt great ecstasy as if they were embracing Krishna directly. So Ramananda Raya told Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that Prataparudra has a young son who is very beautiful. He looks like Krishna. Since you don't want to meet the king, I beg you, please meet his son. If you bless his son, it's as good as blessing the father. In fact, even before that, Ramananda Raya recommended that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave his undergarment to the king as Tadiyanam. So Mahaprabhu agreed. So he gave one of his garments to Ramananda Raya to be sent to the king. And when the king received this garment of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he placed it on an altar and he worshiped it as if he was worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard that Prataparudra Maharaj was worshiping his garment just as he would have worshipped him, he smiled. It means the king is actually a devotee. So it was from there. Then the next stage was Ramananda Raya suggested that if you cannot meet the king, at least bless his son. And Mahaprabhu said, all right, you bring me his son. So it was arranged. And the young son of Prataparudra was brought before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But before they brought him, they dressed him up like Krishna. He was in a yellow dhoti. He was wearing a beautiful garland. He was looking like Krishna. And the boy had a blackish color. So as soon as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he set eyes on this boy, the son of Prataparudra, he said, this boy reminds me of Krishna. He looks exactly like Krishna. Look at his dress. Look at his garland. And immediately Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced the boy. And when Mahaprabhu embraced the boy was in ecstasy. Any person Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would embrace, he would impart unto him transcendental bliss. He would initiate him into the nectar of Krishna consciousness. Vande Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Krishna Bhavamritam Hiyaha. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to taste the nectar of Krishna consciousness and then to distribute the nectar of Krishna consciousness. So anybody Mahaprabhu would touch, anybody Mahaprabhu would instruct, anybody Mahaprabhu would glance at, they receive that mercy of Krishna consciousness. So the son of King Prataparudra was embraced by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and immediately he went through transformation. He entered into the zone, the transcendental zone of ecstasy. And he began to cry. He couldn't control it. He couldn't control it. He began to cry. He began to shed tears. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had to cool him down, talk to him very nicely, and cool down the son of Prataparudra. And after some time, he allowed Ramananda Rai to send the boy back to the father. And when the father heard that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had embraced his own son, and the son was in ecstasy, he was shedding tears of love, immediately King Prataparudra embraced his own son. And when he embraced his own son, he could feel that he was embracing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The same ecstasy that the son felt when he was embraced by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he felt the same ecstasy. Prataparudra's life was successful just by embracing his own son, who was touched by the transcendental body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So the transcendental touch is amazing. When Krishna embraces his sons, and the sons not embrace their mothers, the mothers feel the same ecstasy as if they were directly embracing their husbands. Even it is said that when Krishna entered Mathura, it was amazing. It was amazing how the ladies of Mathura were in ecstasy just seeing Krishna. Ata parane Bhagavan Krishna Sankarshanaha. Lord Krishna desired to see the beauty of Mathura. So toward the evening, Lord Krishna took Balaram and the cowherd boys on a tour of the city of Mathura. If we remember the story, Kamsa wanted to kill Krishna, and therefore he arranged for Akura to go to Vrindavan to invite Krishna for a wrestling match. But he did not directly say he should invite for a wrestling match. He told Akura, you go and tell Krishna and Balaram that since they are village boys, they should come to the city and see the beauty of Mathura. That will attract Krishna and Balaram. If he goes to tell them there is a fight, there is a quarrel, there is a match, a wrestling match, maybe they may be scared and they may not come. Just tell them that the beauty of Mathura is waiting for them. They should come and have a tour of Mathura. Of course, Krishna is super soul. Krishna knows what Kamsa is thinking about. He knows Kamsa's plan. Kamsa is just deceiving himself by thinking he's deceiving Krishna. Yet, Krishna and Balaram, they came with Akura. And in that evening, it is said, Krishna decided, since it's the desire of the king of Mathura, Kamsa Deva, so he decided to tour Mathura. So he called Balaram and the cowherd boys to come along with him so they can tour Mathura. But then what happened? It is mentioned, Tam Sampravashto Vasudeva Nandanoso, that the women of Mathura, they hurriedly assembled and went to see the two sons of Vasudeva. The ladies of Mathura, they heard that Krishna and Balaram were in town and that they were touring the city. So all the ladies in Mathura, they all rushed out to have a glimpse of the beautiful form of Krishna. They eagerly climbed the rooftops of their houses in order to see Krishna. In fact, it says some of the ladies could not properly dress. They could not wear their clothes properly. They could not wear their ornaments properly. They wore their clothes backward. They wore their clothes upside down. They mismatched their earrings. They mismatched their ankle bells. Instead of putting the mascara on their eyes, they were putting the mascaras on their ears. They were in such great ecstasy to see the Supreme Lord that they were doing everything opposite. The ladies were very eager to see Krishna. And in their haste and excitement to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they forgot to dress properly. They forget to ornament themselves properly. Those who were taking their meals at that time, they abandoned their eating. Those who were taking their baths, they could not complete their baths. There was commotion everywhere, commotion between the ladies. Even those who were breastfeeding their children, they just put their children aside because they wanted to see the lotus-eyed Lord. They were very captivated by the beautiful glances of Krishna. They were captivated by the beautiful face of Krishna. So that is the attraction towards Krishna. Krishna attracts everyone. Sanatana Goswami mentions in the Brihad Bhagavatamritam, Chitrati Chitrai, Ruchirai Viharai, Ananda Patodi, Taranga Magnum. When submerged in the waves of that ocean of ecstasy, enjoying the ever fresh, shining pastimes of Raj, I was so attracted to each and every enchanting residence that I never noticed the passing of days and nights. Actually, it said that Krishna's pastimes are so attractive. Krishna's form is so attractive that the residents of Vrindavan, they will always look towards Krishna. They cannot put off their eyes on Krishna. Even the animals of Vrindavan, the cows, the deer, the peacocks, even the monkeys, as soon as they see Krishna, they will look straight at Krishna. They will be drinking the beauty of Krishna's form. So therefore, seeing the form of the Lord, drinking the beauty of the Lord, relishing Krishna's beauty, is compared to the flow of the Ganges River. The Ganges River originates from the spiritual well, and it flows through the whole universe, even to the hellish planets. In the Bila Swaga, in the Bila Swaga, the Ganga is called Bhogavati. So Ganga goes all the way down the whole universe. Haribo.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, you might have to unmute. Okay, thank you.
So this flow of Ganga throughout the universe is said to be liquid nectar flowing through the universe to purify all conditioned souls. Similarly, seeing Krishna and drinking the beauty of Krishna is nectar that purifies a living entity. Just by seeing Krishna is purifying. And what I speak of those who are already purified, it is great ecstasy. It is great bliss. It is ananda. So therefore the queens, they were very eager to embrace their dear husband. And when that could not happen, it is said they shed tears. The embrace of the eyes is more effective in a conjugal relation. And that's according to Srila Goswami, there is nothing wrong with such an exchange of feeling between husband and wives. So the queens, they are in Swakiya Ras with Krishna. They are married with Krishna. And so they have that vow, that intense love for Krishna. And naturally, when Krishna arrived in Dwaraka, the conjugal love, conjugal feelings, their conjugal wrath was aroused. And they wanted to embrace Krishna instantly. But social etiquette did not allow. And so they have to use their children to go between them and their dear husbands. I think my time is almost up. 3 more minutes to time. Hare Krishna. So thank you very much. Any comments or questions?
Hare Krishna. Thank you so
Hare
much.
Krishna.
Thank you so much for the class. Well, Ganga Prashad Prabhu has a question. So Prabhu, you may unmute and ask your question.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, obeisance to
Hare
Lotus.
Krishna. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Prabhupada. Thank you very much. Very, very deep lecture and informative. I have a little bit of need for clarification in course of your class. You mentioned that the queens could not embrace Krishna due to social etiquette of being in the public place. But in course of the series of this reading, it was mentioned that the queens of Dwarka did not come to the public place to receive Krishna due to social etiquettes also. And that when Krishna got to his place, he has to expand himself to enter each palace. Was he embracing before he entered the palace or after he entered the palace? So I wanted to have clarification about the location. Is it inside or outside? And if it's inside, what is the inhibition of getting close? That even if they did not go to Krishna, because it's indoors, Krishna could go also and embrace them to balance the equation.
Well, my understanding is that two levels. One thing is, if it were outside, definitely social etiquette would not have allowed the queens to embrace Krishna, for sure. And if it were in their own palaces, there were still some social etiquettes there. Because it's not just Krishna and the queens alone in the palace. And therefore, Krishna could not, or the queens, because they were surrounded by other family members, they could not immediately embrace Krishna in the open, in the presence of everyone as wives. So therefore, they could embrace Krishna when they enter into their inner chambers, but they could not wait for that. They were eager, they were yearning to embrace Krishna. They couldn't wait till the inner chambers time would come. So immediately they had to embrace Krishna by drinking the beauty, by sending the children and so on and so forth. That is just the introduction of what will happen later when they go into the chambers.
Thank you very much. A follow-up to that is that also in the temples, in our ashrams, it's like also implemented that couples and those who are in the Grihastha ashram, they observe this, or the authority make them observe it, that within the temple premises, there's restriction of closeness and all of this. Is it in furtherance or in pursuance of this same standard or social order?
Well, since we live in a community of different ashrams, and we are aware of that in some ashrams, man-woman relationship is restricted, like the Brahmachari ashram, Vanaprastha ashram, and Sannyasi ashram. Man-woman relationship is restricted. So therefore, to protect them, in our temples, there is social distancing. We have invited social distancing before COVID-19 came.
We are complying.
So just to protect the brahmacharis, protect the sannyasis, protect the vanaprasthas. So in our temples, and even in Vedic culture, husband and wife are not allowed to embrace in public, to relate very vigorously in public, so that they can protect those who are in the brahmacharya ashram. So it's a Vedic culture. And Krishna and his queens, being the origin of all Vedic culture, they were also observing it in Dwaraka.
Thank you very much. I'm grateful.
Thank you for giving the opportunity. Any other question or comment?
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Of course, I have a question.
I know you always have a question.
Yes. My question is about the Sarkiya and Parkiya of the Madhurya Leela.
Okay.
The Parkiya, which is the paramount, is considered to be the highest.
Yes.
Okay. And let me see if I can share this. This is Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adilila chapter 4.
Okay.
Yeah, chapter 4, the confidential reasons for the appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then verse 40, I think 49, like 44. Let me see. Yeah. But if we compare the sentiments in an impartial mood, we find that the conjugal sentiment is superior to all others in sweetness. Again, increasing love is experienced in various states. And here, it talks about if the love between Krishna and the unwedded wives.
Yeah.
Well, if they are not wedded, we may not say wife, but the unwedded gopis,
yeah,
is much superior to the wedded. In other words, Krishna's love for the unwedded, the highest of the unwedded is Srimati Radharani, is higher than that of his relationship with somebody like Rukmini. So if we as human beings, being parts and parcels of Krishna, also express this same sentiment that somebody is married, but is still more attached to somebody else who is not a wedded wife. What is wrong with that?
Well, that's an interesting question. Actually,
we're just trying to follow our father.
Prabhupada often says we should not imitate, we should follow. Right. So if you say because Krishna is enjoying unwedded relationship with the gopis, therefore we would also imitate Krishna. We are hanging ourselves. And Srila Prabhupada gave the example of the Shaivites. The Shaivites, the worshippers of Lord Shiva, they want to take ganja because Lord Shiva drank hala, the poison that came out of the churning of the milk ocean. Lord Shiva drank all that poison, but he did not swallow it. He kept it in his throat. And as a result, he earned the name Nilakant, the blue throat guy. So these Shaivites, who in the name of following Lord Shiva, imitating Lord Shiva, go on smoking ganja because Lord Shiva drank the ocean of poison. They are imitating. They are not following Lord Shiva's instructions. So Srila Prabhupada says that we should follow Krishna's instruction in the Bhagavad Gita, but we should not imitate Krishna. So because Krishna is the owner of everything. Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. Krishna says that he is the proprietor of everything. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate. Everything emanates from me. So therefore, Krishna is the proprietor of the spiritual and material energies. He is the proprietor of all living entities. Therefore, Krishna has the qualification to enjoy any living entity. As living entities, we are living entities. We do not have the qualification to imitate Krishna. So if we try to imitate Krishna, we'll get into trouble. So it is advisable for us to imitate Krishna. In fact, there are some so-called sadhus in Vrindavan who imitate Krishna. They also enact the, what they call it, rasa dance. They take young girls into the bush and they also want to perform rasa dance. But they end up in trouble. They are killed. Ram Priya Prabhu, happy to see you. And Achintya Rupa Prabhu, Hare Krishna. And the bearded guy, Kush, with his white beard. Nigeria.
Yeah, I came to arrest them.
Hare Krishna. Happy to see all of you. Wonderful. So, for Krishna, there are no forbidden, what do I call it, activities. Krishna can do anything he likes. Actually, it is said what? It said, Ishwara Jagannath Kartum Anyantra. Lord Jagannath is Ishvara. He's a supreme personality of Godhead. Therefore, he can do and undo. Kartum akartum anyantra. The Lord can do and undo. We cannot imitate the Lord. So therefore, Krishna can enjoy the gopis in Parakya Ras, and that is considered the highest relationship, the highest devotion, the highest interaction with a devotee that Krishna experiences. So, but because he is the Supreme Lord, he is the origin of everything, everything emanates from him, he's the proprietor of everything, Krishna can do that, but we cannot. If we do that, it is suicidal. We would put ourselves on a rope, and the consequences will be very serious. So therefore, we cannot imitate Krishna. Krishna lifted the Govardhan hill with one finger to show his supremacy. We cannot even lift a piece of rock. So therefore, it is not everything that Krishna does. We can say, oh, Krishna is our father. We must also follow his footsteps. There are many things Krishna did that we cannot dream of. And one of those things is when Krishna danced with the gopis, Krishna expanded himself into as many gopis as possible. Even when Krishna married the 16,108 queens, sometimes people say Krishna married so many wives, so why can't I also marry many wives? Krishna expanded himself into 16,108 queens. Krishna did not have to go from one house to another to attend to his queens. No, he expanded to the number of queens that were there. So there are some things that we cannot do because it is beyond our power. It is beyond our capability. And if we try it, we'll get into trouble. So we cannot practice Parakya Ras. It is not allowed for a living entity to practice Parakya Ras. Only Krishna, he can practice that Parakya Ras. And in fact, Srila Prabhupada explains that actually Krishna is the only male. Krishna is Purusha, and the living entity is Prakriti. Krishna is the only male, and all of us are female. So we are all wives of Krishna, including the gopis, including the cowherd boys, including every jiva. Every jiva is Prakriti. So Krishna can enjoy his Prakriti, his energy. We do not have that right or qualification to enjoy Krishna's energies. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I very well understand, but I have a follow-up question. That is, Krishna is Krishna. He can do and undo
Anything
whatever he wants.
Yes, yes.
Now, there are some activities that Krishna performs in this material world just for his own
Pleasure.
enjoyment and pleasure. And there are some things he does just to teach us.
Yes.
Srila Prabhupada actually said in this same chapter that Krishna is teaching us how a son should receive or respect his mother.
Okay.
He also gave example of how Krishna as Lord Ramachandra taught us how an ideal king is supposed to be.
That's right.
Now, because of social ethics, the wives of Krishna were shy to give him a hug, like to embrace him.
Yeah.
It's not that they will be wrong to embrace him, but it's just social norm.
Yes.
Lord Chaitanya also took sannyasi to preach simply because of social norms.
Yes.
And so why do we as a movement oftentimes try to ignore social norms and claim that this is
transcendental.
We are transcendental, yes. when our Supreme Lord himself and the bygone acharyas from time to time follow social ethics. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Krishna.
The time, places, and circumstance.
Okay. Shri Prema Samputa. Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Well, social norms should be observed.
Yeah.
As a movement, people are watching us and they're judging our movement by how we interrelate.
Yeah.
You know, they watch all that. But as Prema Samputa Prabhu said, that sometimes due to circumstances, due to situations, those social norms may be brushed aside. But at the same time, we should bear in mind that the world is watching us as a spiritual organization, and whatever we are doing, they will use it to judge our movement.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like when Srila Prabhupada went to Mayapur the first time, he was engaging his female disciples to serve some of his senior god brothers, but they were not feeling very comfortable with ladies serving them. So Srila Prabhupada noticed that. So the next time he invited them, he allowed only the brahmachari to serve them. But he wanted them to see that even the Westerners, they could be trained to become Vaishnavas. He wanted them to see that it doesn't matter where they come from. They have learned the etiquette of Vaishnava culture. And they were practicing Vaishnavas. But from the social aspect, some of the god brothers who were sannyasis, they didn't feel comfortable. And Prabhupada noticed that. And so the next time he invited them, he only allowed the men to serve them. So according to time, place, and circumstance, certain etiquettes may be observed or must be observed. And according to time, place, and circumstance, certain etiquettes may be relaxed. Like that.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. I think my time is up.
There is one more hand up.
Okay. All right.
Shumara Prabhuji, you may unmute and ask your question.
Hare Krishna. Are you hearing me?
Hare Krishna. Hey, Srima Varahan Prabhu.
My Dandavat Pranam,
Dandavat Pranam,
Srivas Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. I'm your servant.
Good to hear from you once again. First, I have two questions. No, one comment, one question.
Okay.
Comment actually is what is propelling me to ask the question, because after hearing from senior Vaishnavas, one should submit questions for more edification. So I just didn't want to make comment. That would be too preposterous. How do you say? Okay. So my comment is actually to thank you. Yeah, because you just did something when you started your lecture, which I've been observing for some time from most of our brothers who spoke on this forum. It's like there was or there is you're not hearing me?
But yeah, we can hear you, but there is a lot of noise at the background, so we cannot hear you.
How is it now?
Yeah, it's much better. It's much better.
Okay. Okay, so what am I thanking you for? That you are the only one, maybe apart from you, maybe Mother Brajalima, that has given lecture and offer obeisances to your guru. Every other person offer obeisances to Prabhupada alone. I've been feeling very uncomfortable with that. So today that you did, and I felt a bit relaxed, at least I don't think it's a rule that one should not offer obeisance to his guru. So thank you for that, and I feel inspired that at least there are some, devoted to what emulating who are exemplary.
Thank you.
So
Thank you for that comment.
My question is a polemic in ISKCON right now, and there are two sides about the fall of the jiva from the spiritual world, and there's been an elaborate discussion on this from both sides. From your learning and your experiences and what you've been hearing from authorities, what I would like to hear your point of view on this.
Well, I know that in ISKCON, there are two schools of thought.
Right.
One school is that the Nitya Bada never ever was in the spiritual world. That is one school of thought. And there are even verses from the Bhagavad Gita that seem to support that viewpoint. There are, I think, two verses. One is 15:6, and one also is 8. I can't remember the number, but it's also the same verse. Yad gatva nivartante tad dharmam paramam mamam yad gatva nivartante. Krishna is saying, one who goes there, he never returns to this material world. So the one school of thought who argue that the Nitya Bada has never been to the spiritual world because Krishna says that one who goes there never comes back here. So if we have been there, what are we doing here? That is the argument. And then another school of thought says that every jiva comes from Krishna. In fact, there is Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Jaivadam explains that there are two kinds of Nitya Muktas. One is called Aishwarya Gata Nitya Mukta, and one is called Madhurya Gata Nitya Mukta or Nitya Siddha. The Aishwarya Gata Nitya Siddhas, they are the associates of Lord Narayan in Vaikuntha. And they are manifested from Mula Sankrashan. And then the Madhurya Gata Nitya Siddhas, they are manifested from Lord Balaram. And then Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions that the Nitya Badas, they are originating from Mahavishnu. But for me, the argument is neither here nor there. Because whether it is Mahavishnu that is manifesting the Nitya Badas, whether it is Sankrashan that is manifesting the Aishwarya Gata Nitya Siddhas, or whether it is Balaram that is manifesting the Madhurya Gata Nitya Siddhas, the origin is Krishna. Krishna is the origin of Balaram. Balaram is the origin of the Chatuvyuha. and then Mahasankrishan, Mula Shankrishan, they are all originating from Balaram. Mahavishnu is coming from Mahasankrishan. So the origin of everything is Krishna. And there is no other source for the living entity except Krishna. So that means that whichever way we look at it, the origin of the Jiva is Krishna. And Krishna states that, he makes that very clear in the Bhagavad Gita. Mama ivam so jiva loke, jiva bhuta sanatanaha. Every living entity is part and parcel of Krishna eternally. So the circumstances, how the living entity appears in the material world, it is obscured. Actually, Srila Goswami says that because the living entity, the history of the living entities fall into the material world cannot be known by the living entity, because he wasn't there in the beginning to see how he entered the material world. But the fact is that every living entity has its origin from Krishna. And that means at one point in time, when the living entity is manifested, because it is sometimes Krishna withdraws the material creation, he withdraws the whole creation, and he's alone. And sometimes Krishna manifests the creation again. So wherever it is, we are all coming from Krishna. And therefore, since Krishna is the source of everyone, it means all of us, we emanate from Krishna. But according to time and circumstances, the living entity is manifested differently. But originally, every being, even the avatars, the expansions, the incarnations, they are all coming from Krishna. So therefore, Krishna is the source of all the incarnations, whether they're the Swamsar or the Vibhinamshas. The separated parts and parcels are called the Vibhinamshas, the living entities, and the Swamsars are the direct expansions of the Supreme Personality of God, the Vishnu Tattvas. All are coming from Krishna, and therefore our origin is the spiritual world.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for that answer. I hope Srimad Varaha Prabhu is okay with the answer. It's quite detailed.
So thank you very much for giving the opportunity to be here. We hope to see all of you again in the future. Thank you.
So at this point, we ask all devotees to unmute themselves, and then we chant Big Hare Krishna. Jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Patitanam Pavanivyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Jai. Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
All brothers,
Hare Krishna.
Vanacari ki jai.
Jai.
Haribol. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Thank you all. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for attending the class.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Oh, yeah, 30, 60. Well, you didn't shoot that at all. Well, another thing that you don't realize that